So we all know how extraordinary the £1.25 billion investment in decarbonising the steelmaking here in Port Talbot is. I didn't quite think I was going to get to walk on water, which is what we're doing today here at the steel plant Lagoon, the Boss Lagoon as people will know it, which has recently been infilled, or part of it has been infilled in preparation for the route, which is going to have 100-ton scrap lorries driving over it from the scrap receipt bays over to the left, which is where the con steel conveyor that will feed the electric arc furnace is. Now, I'm joined today by Johnathan Lewis. Johnathan, you're section manager for Sir Robert McAlpine, major contractor lead here for the transformation programme. Extraordinary, really, to be standing in what was nearly the middle of the lagoon. Tell me what work has gone on to get to this place.
Yeah, it's night and day really from when we first started here at the Boss Lagoon. So there's been a few key elements to it. So where we've recovered a number of fish prior to the works commencing, which was very successful. And then we've gone on then to dredge the existing silt, which has been in here for a number of years. And that has been successfully completed. And then that's taken us on to the infilling of the lagoon then.
Now, there looks like a huge amount of work gone on, trucks coming and going all the time, big trucks loading in some aggregate. How much of this stuff have you put in and where's it from?
So to date, we've installed circa 100,000 metres cube.
Wow.
And that's been delivered via a local quarry and then placed by our subcontractor, Knights Brown.
Yeah, and some of the recycled material from on site, I think, has been mixed in with it as well, hasn't it, Jonathan?
That's correct. Yeah, so a lot of the concrete demolition from within the Boss plant and various locations have been crushed and screened and then recycled as part of this infill process.
Now, the other thing that's extraordinary, I wasn't expecting when I came down here, on our right, and we'll get some footage of it to overlay hopefully on the video, is some steel sheeting that's going along here. Looks like 2 rows of sheeting. Tell me what all that's about.
Yeah, so it's pretty exciting. There's the sheet piling, they're all temporary. So this is going to assist or aid in the permanent construction of the inlet structure, which essentially feeds the mill with the cooling process. So as you can see, the sheet piles run the entirety of the infill section, and then the guys will be excavating down and then installing an 1800mm diameter pipe, which will provide that connection between the existing and the new section of pipe work.
Yeah, because of course this lagoon is not here just to look pretty, although it's lovely on a day like this, but it supplies the cooling water for the steel plant and for the hot mill, like you say. And so what you're telling me is there's a 6-foot pipe that comes out of the lagoon that feeds the hot mill, which is just through there. And so you've laid the stone in, you're going to dig it out, put the pipe in, lay the stone back on top.
Yeah, that's it. So the excavation depth, hence the temporary works, is circa 6 metres. So it's quite a significant excavation and, a bit of complex work with a couple of RC chambers that will form part of the water supply into the new pumping house itself then as well.
And you mentioned then about the fish. There's been a big environmental aspect to this piece of work, hasn't there? Because this lagoon is probably teeming with life. And there's half the lagoon, a bit more than half the lagoon still remaining. What's that piece of work look like to keep all that nature in place?
Yeah, so, we work closely with RSK. And then we've undertaken 2 successful fish rescues, which were basically essentially netting the lagoon in sections, and then we've installed 2 silt curtains then which segregate or dissect the lagoon into 3 quadrants or sections essentially.
Now the other thing, standing here, this base looks pretty firm, to be honest, and it looks pretty dry considering the weather we've had over the last few months, and fair play to your guys and the contractors for working through all that horrific rain we've had. This looks pretty solid, but of course the things that are going to be coming over this ground are 100-ton trucks full of scrap steel. How do you know that this is going to be solid enough for those trucks? And what extra work has got to now happen before that road can be laid down?
Yeah, so as part of the permanent works and working alongside geotechnical, they've designed a settlement process. So we've, as part of the early mobilisation works, we dredged a localised area, set up a settlement monitoring regime, which basically we got 6-metre girders with settlement plates which are sat on the bed and then filled on top of them, and then we've got a 100-ton surcharge which mimics a loading of a heavily articulated load then carrying the scrap, and then that hopefully should predict any future settlement. But to date, what we stood on is looking really good.
Yeah, and I remember going over with a colleague of yours to the basement of the foundations for the con steel just across the way there. He was talking about the piles that were having to be driven into that area to support the structure. Do you need to put piling into this just to support a roadway, or do you leave it as it is?
Yeah, so the roadway, as it stands, isn't piled, but then any of the permanent buildings, they will be piled in. Yeah,
Yeah, because of course this, I mean, it's such a big area. It's difficult to know where to try and describe it to people. But across the back there's lots of, I think, pump houses, electrical
yeah.
substations, that sort of stuff across the back. So that'll need supporting. Listen, I mean, amazing you've come this far in this weather is just unbelievable, really. And it's to give people an idea of scale. I mean, this is probably, I don't know, 75 metres from where the car park used to be. This was all lagoon, and that's all been filled in a matter of only, two or 3 months. A little bit of work still to do,
Yeah.
but I guess then you'll be handing it over to the guys who'll be laying the road, and then we'll start to see this thing really looking like it's going to.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, so at the minute we're sort of progressing the piling mat and getting them up to level, ready for the piling rig, and the associated follow-on works then, and then Knights Brown will continue with the drainage
Yeah.
and working their way through here.
Nice one. Listen, Jonathan, thanks very much for bringing us down. I'm glad the sun has shone on us today, which is pretty unusual, to be fair, over the last few months. But great to see so much progress being made. You can really start to imagine now what this place is going to start looking like once we start laying the roads, we start putting the conveyor up and the route through to the electric arc furnace for that 70,000 tonnes of scrap that's going to come in every single week. Jonathan, thanks again for bringing us down. We'd love to come down when it's all got a bit further on and see how we're progressing.
Yeah, thank you very much.
As a postscript to the video I've just shot with Johnathan Lewis from SRM about the infilling of the lagoon here in Port Talbot Steelworks, I brought down a key which we keep in our archives, which was originally found within this lagoon when it was first dug out in the 50s when the steelworks was first being made. It comes with a plaque which reads, "This tin-coated pipe key of 13th century origin was brought to the surface during dredging operations on the site of the Abbey Works of the Steel Company of Wales and exhibited in the Welsh National Museum in Cardiff. It was found where a grange of Margam Abbey once stood and was presented to His Majesty King George VI on the occasion of the inaugural ceremony marking the opening of the operational phase of the continuous hot strip mill, July the 17th, 1951. What an amazing piece of history that this site is littered with, but a piece of history that is specifically related to the lagoon that is currently being transformed as part of the decarbonisation of Port Talbot Steelworks.